And then, guys, the last thing that I have, and I think it's fitting that it's the last thing, is Han Solo's last action is after he had been stabbed, he caresses his son's face. Yeah. And he knows that his son's not really there. Mm-hmm. But that's his son's face, and he'll say goodbye to that, you know? Yeah. Even if his son's not truly behind those eyes, I don't know. It reminded me a lot of Harry Potter when Snape is dying, and he's looking at Harry, and he knows that he's looking at James Potter's son, but he just wants to see his eyes, because in his eyes, he's seeing Lily's eyes. Yeah. And that I made that connection with Han, like, Han said the only thing that he was ever good at was smuggling and stuff like that, and you could tell that he wanted to be good as a father, and he felt like him and Leia failed. Mm-hmm. And he died. He failed in trying to bring him back. And
he died thinking he's a failure?
Yeah, but his last moment is like, this would have been nice. You know? And he dies. So that really affected me a lot.
I'm still wondering at what point he knew that he was going to die.
Whenever he said, like, I don't know, he might have always had the intention of trying to find Kylo, because he knew he was there, mm-hmm. and he signed up pretty damn quick to help. Yeah. Whereas he had spent the last 30 years running away. Maybe he always intended to, like, it's either this or nothing. Yeah. Chewie's reaction to Han really got me too. Just anguish. He sounded like he sounded like a kicked puppy, and then he just fucked up some stormtroopers.
He fucked him up good.
And he just.
That was. I like that his. I can't remember what it's called, but his crossbow.
Yeah.
Yeah. The boltcaster. The boltcaster. It's way more powerful than it was on Endor.
They're energized projectiles, is what they're supposed to be.
Okay.
They're not laser bolts. They're like energized, like plasma and shit.
Okay. But it's still way more explosive and way more powerful.
I liked how Han liked it, but I figured, like, what, they've been hanging out for all this time, and he's
never once used his weapon?
Yeah. I thought that was funny.
Yeah. I thought that was really cool.
That's my last note, guys.
You think about him dying now, actually.
Yeah, I know. It was such a beautiful lit scene. Like lighting it the way they did with the ray of sunshine being like, oh, Ben is in there, you know? And then when it went away and the scene changes and you realize what he's going to do, and it's like, Ben's gone now, you know? The way that the lighting reflected that in the character is masterful. Yeah. It's so well done. I wish the entire movie was done as well as that scene. Don't get me wrong, because I loved this movie. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the more I think about it, the more I love it. But I only really had 3 main gripes, and that was Captain Phasma. It was what's going on with the Republic, the New Republic, all that stuff. Yeah. And unfortunately, and this is the last thing I want to talk about with you guys tonight, the lightsaber fight was good, not great. I thought the imagery was great. The location I loved. There were parts in it that I thought were wonderful. Mm-hmm. But I felt like, one, the characters fighting. Kylo, yes, he's a very experienced fighter. Finn should not be able to do the stuff he did. Mm-hmm. And while Rey, yes, could be the son or the daughter of Luke, and maybe she has a natural talent, and she has been fighting with the staff and stuff like that. That's all well and good, but her just deciding to win by closing her eyes and having a little nap and then getting back up and being like, now I'm better now. Yeah. I think that cheapens the lifetime of training a Jedi goes through.
Oh, I completely agree.
I feel like Qui-Gon Jinn would decimate these guys because he trained with a lightsaber from birth, pretty much. Yeah. Count Dooku would take these guys out like nothing. Darth Maul would take these guys out like nothing. Obviously, it felt more like the original trilogy lightsaber fights. And, you know, depending on what kind of fan you are, you may say, well, it's so much better or it's so much worse. I have a very healthy, I think, a healthy look at what lightsaber fights should be like. Yeah. I like all of them in the movies. I don't love 2s.
I don't love 4s.
4s, I mean, it's people like to think it's very technical. It's like, oh, it's very Kendo-like. It's like, not really.
No. I watch Kinemats all the time.
Yeah, I mean, that's somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about when it comes to sword fighting.
It's like 2 people holding awkward weapons that are attached to the cord, and they can't move them because the stick thing that's spinning around would fall off.
Yes.
That's what it seems like.
If they had not a 60-year-old man and a guy wearing heels, to get taller to be the stunt actor for the guy who plays Darth Vader, then they would have been a better fight.
Yeah.
But you need to have a healthy merge of those two realms. And, I think that we speak from experience because we're lightsaber fighters. We do choreography videos. You guys have probably seen them. Mm-hmm. I feel like I could have done a better fight.
Hint, hint.
I know. I don't. Maybe I don't want to say this because I don't want to sound like, well, I'm better. Because I don't think. I think we are, but I'm just saying. Like, I understand what they did. They wanted to have an emotional, character-driven lightsaber fight because for some reason people have it in their heads that that's what lightsaber fights are. It's like, no, they are that, and they are martial skill of Jedi warrior. Future-seeing monks in space, Yeah. It needs to have a sense of practicality and aggression and skill behind it.
Yeah,
I felt like Kylo Ren had some skill, but it was null and void to the plot armor of having a good lightsaber fight.
He had skill, but it seemed from his reactions whenever something went wrong, he didn't temper well.
Now, let's point this out because I know people are probably talking about it. He was shot by Chewie and injured and bleeding during this fight.
Okay.
So that could impede his skill. I completely acknowledge that.
Okay.
But the movements they had him doing in place of more skilled ones were not ones that looked like an injured man.
No.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he was like holding his arm to the side and then using one side of his body expertly while her taking advantage of his bum side. Yeah. It was a guy that's not a very good fighter fighting.
Yeah, and until you mention it right now, I kind of forgot that he was shot.
Yes, and he did this really cool hitting thing.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that.
Well, yeah, he was deadening the pain.
Yes.
He was hitting it to deaden the pain so he could keep fighting. But yeah, I forgot through the last portion of the fight that he was actually injured because he was moving freely.
He's moving so well, which Jedi can do. I mean, Yoda cannot walk very well, but when he's fighting, he's a golden god.
Yeah, he's Kermit the Frog.
Yes, he's the ancient kung fu master that becomes a young 17-year-old acrobat,
Yeah.
I just felt like the fight just left something to be desired.
Well, I don't think...
I would have liked...
It reminded me of a lot of, like, Born Identity stuff, identity type fighting where it was, like, close, quick cuts.
Yeah.
So, like, if I would have saw that... Like, because I saw a lot of these shots.
Yeah.
Like horizontal shoulder blocks. I saw those a million times.
I mean, there's only one move in there that I really liked, and it was Kylo's, like, spin saber over his head and then over to the side.
Well, he did that and he actually rotated, which is not really even practical in a real fight.
Not really,
but I like the way it looked.
It looked really cool, especially with crossguard saber.
Yeah.
But I also liked how he attacked with the crossguard saber.
Yep.
Yeah, that was cool.
I like that. So,
they did not go far enough with it.
No,
Somebody will.
Yeah.
No. One thing that I would like to point out, and it's on the gripe of they didn't fight with as much
martial skill
as we would have liked to have seen. Kylo didn't finish his training.
Yeah.
The reason that he uses the lightsaber primarily is also because he's a Force user and he can defend himself with the Force rather than with a blaster.
True.
So he may not be as proficient as Obi-Wan or Qui-Gon Jinn with a lightsaber.
You're right.
I think he'd be much more proficient.
And also, we're seeing these characters, especially Rey, pick up a lightsaber and use it for the first time.
I just feel... I mean, this is really hard for me to communicate, but I feel like we were supposed to be very impressed with the lightsaber fight.
Yeah.
Because it looked like Darth Vader fighting in Empire Strikes Back a little bit. But me, who has a very specific thought process of how a lightsaber fight should be, was not impressed by it. Whereas I feel like the general public would be like, "Oh, that was an amazing lightsaber fight," But it wasn't Ray Park, Korra.
Nothing Ray Park.
I know, but
if they're trying to even emulate the original trilogy, like 5's fight was better. I thought a lot better.
I agree because of the huge power dynamic that should have been in this fight and wasn't.
Yeah,
you could say that that's equaled out by.
Well, just the moves were kind of better, except what I mean.
I didn't. That's one thing. I didn't feel like there was any interaction between the characters. Like there was a little bit of story going on between, Kylo. He was force pulling the saber out of the snow, like in the snow pit that Luke was hung upside down in. I can't remember what the
cave
the Wampa Pit.
Yeah.
I could feel that. That was a callback.
Yeah.
And then
he
went to Rey, and she caught it, and there was a little bit of there.
Yeah.
But after that, it didn't feel like there was any actual like close up of seeing the characters.
Well,
reactions.
Except when they were like
there
this.
was whenever they locked up and
Like
she for some reason, even though no one told her at all to concentrate and use the Force, she concentrated and used the Force.
Yeah.
And then was for some reason just a lot better martial fighter, which just didn't speak to me very well.
Yeah, I didn't see any reaction.
I don't understand it story-wise.
Like the first time we see him, it's a fight of Kylo Ren without his mask, and we saw no emotion from him in that fight.
I'm just saying, like, you're right in the sense, Calvin, that we didn't see any super, like, we saw emotion. We saw fear from Finn, and we saw
anger from Rey.
Anger from Ren.
I'm talking about
and then,
specifically from Kylo Ren. Like,
yeah.
we saw anger at the beginning when he was beating his chest and stuff.
We saw fear after she, like, found herself or whatever. I don't know. That moment's giving me a hard time every time I think about it. That moment of her, like, stopping.
Well, I think it harkens back to Abrams' kind of, his original trilogy feel with.
I get it.
Anyone can kind of.
I get it, but you have to have a wise mentor saying that to plant that seed.
Yeah.
Otherwise, this plant shows up with no reason.
Wasn't it Maz Kanata's voice that said that? Like,
Let it in.
Let it in.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, kinda. I mean, I did. Yeah, you're right. Maybe that could. I guess that could.
It doesn't mean she's going to know how to wield it in lightsaber.
It just seems so inconsequential that I don't even remember it now.
I mean, if he trained for more than a year, which he probably trained for a decade. If he trained for just a year, you got to remember, he's a son of Anakin Skywalker too. You know what I'm saying? He's a son of Anakin Skywalker. Not the son. He's a grandson of Anakin Skywalker, and he's had probably a decade or more of some kind of Jedi training and dark side training.
Yeah.
And she's just some girl who might be Luke's son.
I know.
Daughter, you know what I mean?
The thing is that the choreography.
There is another possibility that she's Han and Leia's younger daughter.
I don't think so. I think they would have said something. My feeling is that it's either Luke's offspring.
I still think it's Luke's.
Maybe related to Ben Kenobi. I mean, Ben was on Tatooine for a long time.
Man gets lonely out there in the desert.
You never know. I mean, I guess their age wouldn't really match.
Unless it's his granddaughter.
And then they meet again, and you have the granddaughter of Obi-Wan Kenobi versus the grandson of Anakin Skywalker.
That Obi-Wan is just so...
I just give myself chills.
He's so Jedi monkish that he wouldn't need that kind of...
No. I mean, we know that's not the case because of how he felt about Satine.
Yeah, but he beat that. So. You know what I mean?
I don't necessarily agree. I mean, he had those feelings. I mean, I feel like he would have done it eventually, especially after he became disillusioned with the Jedi after the fall. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I could see it happening. It might be worth it.
Not enough to abandon his post on Tatooine.
He didn't abandon it. He could have went to a cantina. We know that he does that.
Oh, yeah.
You think for just 18 years he just stood there on the edge of the farm like, shit, get out of here, shit.
Made that nasty and waved his arms noise.
Yeah. No, he also did some other stuff. He could have, Luke went to bed early one night and he's like, I'm just gonna go, you're wasted. What else the hell am I doing? Qui-Gon's on my shit. Yoda talking to me in my dreams. Fuck it. I'm just gonna down it. You look really, really pretty.
Yeah. I just Jedi Mind Trigger.
Yeah, I know you would.